I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's 6 o'clock, a couple minutes after 6 o'clock. I want to be courteous of all of you with your time. So if we can all quiet down here a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First off, thank you all for coming out. My name is Ryan Spear. I'm a detective here at the Edmonds Police Department. I appreciate you all coming out here for the tips on helping to prevent property crime and burglaries. To be honest, I wasn't sure just how many people to expect to come out, and so to see a full house like this is really nice, and so I really appreciate you all taking time out of your evenings to do that. So before we get started, I want to introduce a few people from Edmonds PD that are here in the room. To my right here is Detective Julie Govantes, and she'll introduce herself in just a moment. In the back, handing out the brochures, is my direct boss, Detective Sergeant Mike Richardson. And somewhere in the back there, I believe still, is Assistant Chief Don Anderson, who's in charge of all the detective unit and a bunch of other units inside the department as well. So a little bit about myself. I've been with Edmonds PD for 11 years. I've been on detectives for about 3.5 years now. Worked worked patrol rather on graveyard for about 7.5 years before that, and I have a few different positions here in the department as well. And then my partner, I'll let introduce herself as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Detective Julie Govantes. I've been with Edmonds for about 3 years. Prior to here, I was also a detective in South Florida, an agency next to Fort Lauderdale called Lauderhill Police Department. So I've handled property crimes, and I currently handle property crimes here as well. I assist Detective Spear with handling property crimes.
All right. So the format for tonight a little bit is, actually before I get into that, some housekeeping things first. The restrooms out the hall, kind of in the east end of the hallway towards 6th Avenue. Wanted to get started as soon as 6 o'clock as I could here, and the plan is to go absolutely no later than 7:30. We have the room reserved only for a small amount of time, and we all have families we want to get home to as well. So I think that covers that. And I forgot to mention Sergeant Shane Hawley. He's in back as well. Some of you may recognize him from my Edmonds News snippets, or from being on the receiving end of the television camera during large incidents that we investigate. His superpower tonight is to be able to push the play button for videos on PowerPoint, and so his skills are invaluable here. So I've been planning this kind of off and on since last summer. It's been kind of a work in progress, and it keeps on getting delayed by large incidents, and most recently we've had several homicides, and so vehicle prowls, thefts from stores, burglaries all take second, third, fourth seat or chair when we have a homicide. And so things like that have really delayed me being able to actually get this out into the public, and the fact that this coincides well with a certain rash of residential burglaries we've had recently is kind of a good coincidence in a way, in the sense that it's really going to help bring things to the forefront of everybody's minds. A little bit about us with our mission statement. We really do strive to put service before self, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this meeting here with everybody, is to give you some tools to help fortify your own homes against burglaries, and share some insights or some tools that you may not have been aware of, give you some different perspectives possibly. The agenda for tonight, as written there, we're going to discuss burglary trends for both houses and businesses. This kind of got its start with a big string of commercial burglaries that were happening last May through August. There's just a prolific string of those all throughout Snohomish County, but especially here in Edmonds. And that really kind of spawned this whole thing for me. So we're going to talk about some of those trends, share some successful methods of preventing those crimes, or at least minimizing your risk for those crimes. Talk about how we can partner together with various tools. We'll be going over that in fairly good detail later on here, and then we're going to end with some questions and answers, and Detective Govantes and I are going to tag team on that in a large part with the questions and answers. So we do want to limit our discussion and the questions and answers especially to kind of the topic at hand, with property crime prevention tips and tricks and things of that nature. So we will have that at the end. Trying to get acquainted with this PowerPoint here. All right. So, make sure I can see this myself here. So the City of Edmonds has roughly 41,000 residents. That kind of varies a little bit here and there, but somewhere in that ballpark roughly. We have several commercial districts. We're here in the downtown area, and you're all familiar with that. Down at the very far south end, we have Furdale Village, kind of a smaller commercial district with some little small boutique shops and some restaurants. We have Westgate, of course, with PCC, QFC, and a lot of small restaurants around there. Five Corners, you all familiar with that, near the high school. Several small restaurants, businesses in that area, and then up north in Perrinville. So those are kind of the main, of course, Highway 99, of course I can't miss that. That's kind of a busy thoroughfare through the city. So those 6 areas are the main districts, so to speak, of commercial areas. Everything else mostly is just residential. That's where the rest of the 41,000 people tend to fit in. Some statistics from 2017 and 16, the burglaries went up a little bit, not dramatically so, but up a little bit. I don't have statistics for 2018 right now. I suspect that the residential burglaries are going to be around the same. There may be a little bit of fluctuation up or down, probably not anything terribly dramatic. Commercial burglaries stays fairly static as well. I suspect, and I'm not positive on this, but I suspect that 2018 commercial burglaries may actually have a somewhat dramatic uptick even, mostly because our summer season was very, very busy with that. This is something I want to focus on real quick here with the case closures with arrests. When we have crimes against persons with assaults, robberies, murders, those have a very high closure rate because there's usually a relationship with people. When it comes to burglaries or property crimes, it's usually stranger crime. Somebody walking through or driving through your neighborhood, they're looking for an opportunistic moment, and they see that. So there usually isn't a facial recognition with anybody. There are very rarely eyewitnesses. And we average, and this is actually probably a little bit on the high end even, potentially, of about 25% of burglaries that get closed by arrest. And when I say closed, that doesn't mean that we arrested the burglar. That means we might have arrested the next day, a few weeks later, a couple months later even, a person who's in possession of your stolen property. That still counts as a closure of that case by an arrest, but it doesn't necessarily mean we've even caught the burglar. And the point that I want you to make sure that you understand through this is that burglaries, by their own nature, have a very low number of arrests. And so the purpose of tonight is to give you some extra tools, things that we can partner on to hopefully bring that number higher and higher. Some trends with residential burglaries. None of this should be terribly groundbreaking for anybody. Some people may be aware, this may be news to some people. Most residential burglaries happen during the daytime hours. You may have heard the terminology, my home's been robbed. Your home doesn't get robbed, you rob a person, your property gets burglarized. So that's what I mean by burglaries. You're not taking property from you by force personally, broke into your home and took that property. Most of those are during the daytime hours. Mid-late morning, early mid-afternoon, and they do that for the specific reason that they want to find your home empty. They don't want to come into your home and find you there in your living room or in your bedroom or your shower or anything like that, because now they have facial recognition and their chances of getting arrested just skyrocketed. So most occur when you're gone, or when they hope that you're gone. At school, work, the gym. Most of them are looking for these items here. Predominantly, I'm seeing the top 2 or 3 with jewelry and money. Electronics is often one of those as well. Many recently that we've seen, they're looking just for jewelry and money and even bypassing the iPad or the computer there on the table. It doesn't mean to go leave those in plain sight or on the patio table. It just means that these are some of those things in no specific order that people tend to be looking for. The way that it typically plays out with a burglary is somebody comes to your front door, they knock on your door, they hope that you're not home, but they want to make sure you're not home, so they knock on the door. If you happen to come to the door, they usually have a little ruse they respond with of, are you the one that was selling the Honda on Craigslist, or are you the one who found my dog, or something like that. Something to hopefully get your mind off in a separate field and not be thinking that you're about to be burglarized, and that's what they're planning if the door gets answered. If they don't get an answer at the door, they start thinking nobody's home, they start checking the doorknob, they check windows nearby, they walk around the home, look for other doors or windows that are unsecure, and find a way inside. This is really key. They're usually in and out in just a few minutes. It's rare. It's probably not that much of a stretch to say it's rare. It's fairly uncommon for someone to go into a home and just linger and loiter and take their time, unless they're absolutely positively sure through another set of circumstances that they know you're not coming home. If they know that you're on vacation or something like that, they know they have more time. They're usually in and out very quickly. they dramatically increase during the summertime. Summertime, we open our windows to get fresh air. We open our doors to get fresh air. If you're anything like me, I love lots of fresh air, so all the windows are open. When you go to the grocery store, sometimes it might seem like a little bit of a pain to go around to every single window, especially that one that's really stiff or hard, and close that one. And you think, well, I'm only going to the grocery store for a few minutes. So they're usually counting on there being an open window, an unsecured door, something along those lines. Summertime tends to have a large uptick. We also notice a bit of an uptick during the Christmas season because you've all gone to Best Buy, you've gone to Costco, you've been doing all your shopping on Amazon, and now you have iPads and computers and TVs in the house or the garage. So we tend to notice a bit of an uptick there as well. On the commercial side, and just out of curiosity, I'm assuming most people here are probably residents of Edmonds. Are there any business owners in Edmonds? Anybody? At least one? Okay, a few. Some commercial burglary trends. They tend to happen in overnight hours when you're closed. It's not a deep thought there, I wouldn't think, but they happen in the evening hours. Most daytime burglaries are residential, most evening burglaries are commercial in general. They're looking for money in the till, they're looking for money in your safe, they're looking for electronics. Most stores now, or many stores, are going toward a tablet system with an iPad where you sign your name and they swipe your card through there. Those are things that they're looking for that they can steal. Predominantly money. They're going to force entry to a door or window. They're usually in and out very, very quickly. This last summer, last May through August, we had, like I said, a huge spree of burglaries over and over and over again. Sometimes several a night, sometimes multiple nights in succession, all throughout Snohomish County. Long story short, we had somebody in custody towards the end of that finally. But many of those cases had surveillance video inside, and it showed somebody breaking a window, running right inside of the till, stealing whatever they could, and they're back out before you could even blink your eyes. It's very, very quick. So the whole point of why we're here is to learn how we can try and minimize or prevent burglaries. We can't guarantee 100% that your home or your business will always be fortified and you will never become a victim of a burglary. But my goal here tonight is to give you those tools to help minimize that and make that risk as small as possible. And so some tips on that, and none of these are going to be necessarily groundbreaking to begin with, but we're going to get into more some detailed things that I'm really hoping you can really take away a lot of. Some of this should be common knowledge, but we're just going to start off with a good foundation there so we're all on the same page. Lock all doors and windows when you're not home. I talked about that already. I've seen a number of burglaries recently where a home was entered through an unsecured window. Even though it's wintertime, windows are easily overlooked. You closed it last fall when it was last time it was 70 degrees and you've never really checked it since then and you didn't lock it, but it's been closed. It's out of sight, out of mind in many regards. Burglars want to find an easy way in, and if an easy way is an unsecured window, they'll do that. If the easiest way is smashing that window, then they'll do that. Another way is to put some motion detecting lights, motion activated lights in dark areas of your home, on sides of your home and areas there's lots of bushes and windows. Place your interior lights on a timer. This is something we can be easily complacent in with valuables in our home. It's easy to think, well, this is my home. Nobody should ever be in my home. And you're absolutely right, but it's easy to leave your electronics out in open view. It never hurts to take a few seconds and put them away, stick your laptop under a couch cushion or something if you need to, or whatever is the easiest thing. But get stuff out of sight so it's not out in the open, so that if somebody did get into your home, you're decreasing and minimizing that risk of certain things being stolen. This is something that many people haven't thought of, and frankly was kind of a new thing for me about 6 or 7 years ago. A friend of mine, a police officer here, actually told me, you know, I got bored one day and I went around with my digital camera and I took pictures of the back of my TV, the back of my laptop, the back of the Blu-ray player, the back of my tablet, recorded serial numbers of everything, and then he put those serial numbers, the pictures rather, on a thumb drive and put that in his safe, just in case. I took pictures of his tools. When jewelry is stolen, many times it's very difficult to trace recovered jewelry back to the owner because, I'll be perfectly honest, for me, gold looks like gold. A necklace looks like a necklace. And it's hard to say this is a specific type of necklace, this is a specific type over here. I might be able to see and appreciate the beauty of it, but it's going to look kind of similar to me. And so if you have a picture of a unique piece of jewelry that belongs to you, especially an heirloom piece of jewelry, it never hurts to take some pictures of that and store it with those serial numbers so that if something was ever stolen and if we then recover a bag full of jewelry in a hotel room during a search warrant or the trunk of a stolen car or something, we stand at least a little bit greater of a chance potentially of getting that back to you. And it's kind of a best case type scenario there, but any little advantage is helpful. You want to store those pictures in a secure place, whether that be a locked box, a safe, safe deposit box at the bank, or wherever that may be. Marking your initials on tools is something that I've been seeing some people do, and there are a few unique cases we've had over the last couple years where, because somebody did that, we were able to trace pawned tools back to them. You take a DeWalt drill over here and a DeWalt drill over there, they look identical. They're both yellow, they both do the exact same thing, both of them have a little bit of dirt on them, both have some scuffs on them, but one has the initials of AB and the other one doesn't. And Alan Brown says, well, I put the initials AB on it, that's mine right there. That's a great way of being able to get something traced back to you. There are even a few pawn shops in the area that refuse to accept tools on pawn with initials on them if it doesn't match up to the person pawning them. Because in other words, the likelihood is they're probably stolen. Installing a video surveillance and alarm system, and this is what a large portion of tonight's presentation is going to be on. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that right this second because we'll get to that. A lot of people know and understand that alarms and video systems can be expensive, and maybe they don't have the cash for that. You can always go on eBay or Amazon or anywhere like that and get stickers claiming that you do have an alarm system or a video system. If somebody thinks that, well, I see the sticker there, I don't see a camera, but maybe it's just hidden really good, I don't know if I want to take a chance on this home, I'm going to go to the next home. Well, you might have just saved yourself from a burglary with a $5 sticker. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's better than nothing. And if you are placing video cameras out there, I'm going to get more into this in detail about putting them in obvious locations because nobody that's going to commit a burglary wants to be caught on camera. So a lot of these are going to be repetitive here with commercial burglaries, a few nuances. Again, make sure everything's locked up, install some activated motion lights. This is something that I don't see many businesses doing with leaving some interior lights on. If you're looking at the back kitchen area or where the office is or something, it's easy to break into a business and get around undetected if all the lights are off and if there's no alarm sounding. If it's backlit, the person knows they stand just that much more of a chance of being spotted by the person walking down the street or the police officer driving down the street. Small thing, but it may give you a little bit of advantage in keeping your business a little bit safer. Hopefully that's not news, emptying your cash register. Unfortunately, in many cases it has been news. We've had a few businesses recently that were hit multiple times, and each time it was the same thing with money in the cash register. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think that's how that goes. So, learn from this, learn from other people's mistakes. I'm a big proponent of learning from someone else's mistakes so I don't have to repeat it. And that's kind of a cheap lesson to learn there. For you, expensive if you're on the receiving end of it, I guess. If you have an iPad and a tablet, like I mentioned, that you're using for a cash register type system or for swiping credit cards, secure that away too, lock it up. Same thing with serial numbers, same thing with storing that information. All right. So we're going to get into a little bit of some of the more of the hands-on aspects of defending your home. And this is geared in terms of a lot of the photographs and some of the videos we'll be seeing toward home specifically. There's a ton of crossover towards businesses if you are a business owner. Many people think that just that little metal latch on their window is going to secure the window. It can never hurt to go to Home Depot or Ace Hardware or Lowe's, get a little stick like that, get a curtain rod, or get a little piece of a 1x1 that's 8 feet long and cut it up into as many sections as you need to be able to block it behind your window or your sliding door. It's a great secondary method to make sure that your door can't open or your window can't open. Many years ago, my wife and I bought a home, and the lock on the rear slider was there, but it didn't work, which meant that you could come and go from the back slider as you pleased. They had a stick there that was for about a 4-inch opening, a 4-foot opening, was about 1.5 feet long, so they had a stick there, but you could still slide the door open and walk right through. So it's kind of self-defeating. Cut it to length, make it nice and tight, and maybe during the summertime, make it so you can open your window a few inches to get some air through there, but it's a very cheap investment, and it can go a long way towards securing your home. This is hopefully this will be a little bit of new information for some people, securing your doors, beefing them up, and kind of reinforcing them. Many people, well, let me show both photos here. When it comes to pry burglaries, somebody with a burglar coming in with a big old pry tool to try and pry the door open, there are a few different ways that you can try and bolster it up. And you see here on the left especially, it's probably a little bit easier to see. There's a little white bracket there and kind of a tongue and groove type of fit to prevent somebody from getting a pry bar in. If anybody has a background in construction or remodeling or has done much home repair, they'll recognize that you can cause a lot of flex in the wooden door frame by getting a pry bar in there. This helps minimize the chances of somebody being able to get a pry bar into your door to force it open. Hardware like this isn't terribly expensive. It's fairly easy to install, especially if you have some handyman skills of any sort. Pretty simple, pretty easy, inexpensive way to beef up your door a bit. In terms of reinforcing doors, this is typically what damage looks like when we respond to a burglary when somebody's kicked open a front door. This is a wooden core door, it looks like. Somebody's been kicking at it numerous times, and they finally caused the door to shatter open and caused the deadbolt and the latch itself to be basically ineffective. A way to beef up a door such as this to help minimize, again, not to guarantee, I want to make sure people understand, I can't guarantee nothing will ever happen, but a way to minimize your door being compromised like that is installing a bracket such as this. They're not, again, not terribly expensive. They're probably in the range of $20 or less. A few little handy skills with some tools, and you can get it installed in probably a matter of 10 to 15 minutes. But it's a simple, easy way to help minimize the risk of the door on the right that you see there flexing outward and basically being rendered completely inoperable. This tool, when combined with others, really helps reinforce your door quite a bit. The door casings tend to be probably one of the biggest weaknesses in a door. Again, if anybody's ever done any remodeling of any sort, done a lot of projects around the house, they'll recognize that door casings are, in a residential area, they're wood. When it comes to commercial, sometimes you'll see steel or aluminum of some sort or some sort of metal, but in terms of residential, you see wood. When a door has been kicked, such as the one we saw on the last slide, this is the other side of the damage on the door frame itself, and you see how the wood's just splintered and shattered apart. The screws that you see on the picture right there, those are 3-inch long screws that go all the way through the door casing into the framing of the home itself, into the structural part of your home. Traditionally, those screws are about 1 inch long when you buy a doorknob set, and I've installed a lot of them in my bedroom doors and exterior doors and replaced those. The screws that come with, they work, but they only go into the door frame itself. So when somebody starts kicking at it, you're going to result in that type of damage that you see there on the far right. If you replace those tiny little screws with something that's 2 to 3 inches long, or even longer if you have them, you're getting, like I said, you're getting the door strike plates really cemented into the framing structure of the home itself, and this, when coupled with reinforcing your door itself, really makes for a very strong connection and makes it that much harder to kick in your front door. And I'm going to keep saying this, I can't guarantee that your home will never be broken into, but again, you're really helping minimize. And I've seen a lot of videos of people kicking doors in burglaries where it takes repeated effort and for non-reinforced doors. And meanwhile, when they're kicking and kicking and kicking, they're creating a lot of noise. They're going to be hopefully disturbing neighbors. And if you have a door like this, it's going to take an enormous amount of force to get a door breached. It really will. And by that time, hopefully, you'll have about a half dozen neighbors wondering what the ruckus is, and ideally calling 911. Another alternative that I've done in my own home is something like what you see in there in the middle. where it has a little metal cup that the door latch itself sinks into, and it has multiple points of contact with screws and really helps reinforce your front door in a strong way. And I think I paid $11 or $12 for that, I think it was, at Ace Hardware. They're pretty inexpensive. They're pretty easy to install, takes a little bit of time, but peace of mind for me is worth its weight in gold. Should be kind of a no-brainer. Many people have alarms, and we're going to talk about these a little bit. Installing a burglar alarm is a very important key. I'm going to get into more of the details of an alarm and some pros and cons of them here in a few slides in the future. An alarm can be... Burglar alarms themselves are actually very easy to install. There are many companies out there now, such as Ring, SimpliSafe, that makes self-install kits for alarms. Something I didn't mention at the very beginning of the presentation, I will be mentioning a lot of businesses or brands by name. I'm not here to promote one brand over another in any way, shape, or form. I will be talking about a lot of pros and cons I see with different brands or different products. I'm not here to bash one company over another. I'm not here to promote one over the other, but a lot of them have some very good products. But many alarm companies sell complete packages that you can self-install in your own home in less than a half hour, like I did myself, for a fairly small amount of money. And you don't even have to commit to monitored service. It never hurts to have that. But about $300 or more or less, you can have a package for a small home, and you can build that for a large one. When you have the alarm, make sure you use it. That's a big thing. If you have your home broken into and you have an alarm that was off, it's kind of worthless and defeats the point of having one. Complacency is really hard to fight with that. Guilty as charged. I understand. I'm human too, just like all of us here. Make sure that all of your ground floor entry areas have sensors on them with windows and doors. If the company you selected has glass break sensors or motion sensors, it never hurts to have something like that as well. If you have large pets in the home, you might have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of motion sensors, but that's okay. If you have second story, it's kind of your decision, really, in many regards, whether to put sensors on windows and doors, but if they're accessible in any way, shape, or form, I would always err on the side of putting them on, sensors on a window. Make sure you have signage around your home, too, so that people can see that your home's protected, because, again, you want to minimize your risk. You want to steer that burglar, that future burglar, away from your home, unfortunately not towards your neighbor specifically, but you want them not to be at your home. So we want to make sure that we're making our home less and less attractive as a target. This is something that I've become kind of a nerd about in a way with video surveillance because I see the effectiveness of it day in, day out, day in and day out. And so a large portion of what we're going to be talking about is also regarding video. And I'm a huge proponent of doing this. The kits aren't expensive. You can get individual cameras that go in your living room to monitor for when you're on vacation or something like that. And you can get them on Amazon even for $30 for IP cameras. You can get full kits with a DVR that you can store somewhere in your home for as little as $200 with HD quality video. There are a lot of things that you can do with that, and like I said, we're going to get into some more detail about that here in a few minutes. But make sure it's recording all the time. Make sure you have motion detection set up so that if you come back and you find that your home's been burglarized, or even think of your neighbor's home was burglarized, and you suspect, well, he might have come to my home first, you'll be able to have a very small number of motion events in the calendar of what happened on your video system, so you can hopefully catch the suspect on that as well. Many of these companies, I would never say all, but many or most actually can send real-time notifications to your phone. I have my phone here, and I can get real-time notifications on my phone when someone comes to my front door or the back gate or wherever, if somebody opens the garage door. It's invaluable. For peace of mind, again, when you're on vacation, when you're out of the house for a few days, it's worth its weight in gold. And like I said, with the signs are cheap. And if it gives one little extra deterrent to someone coming in your home, it's money well spent. Something I'm seeing a large uptick of is video doorbells, and I'm thrilled to see video doorbells. Ring is a very popular one. SimpliSafe has many, has one. Nest has some. If you look on the internet, my default will be Amazon. I'm not promoting them, just saying they're a big retailer. Let's be honest. If you look on Amazon, and probably most or all of us buy there from fairly frequently, you'll see a huge array of video doorbells, anywhere from cheap knockoffs that are made overseas to large companies that have a large presence commercially here. They all do many of the same things. Some have a lot of strengths. Video doorbells are fantastic tools. They're relatively cheap. You can buy them for as little as $100, I think is what Ring's entry-level model comes for. Monthly monitoring for most of these companies is pretty inexpensive in terms of having cloud storage to be able to go back for an event 3 days ago or 4 days ago to see if anything happened or who came to your door. Most of them are pretty aesthetically pleasing. They don't really stand out like a big eyesore on the front of your house. They're designed generally to be fairly discreet. When you think of a camera placement, if you walk up to this wall, and if I'm pushing this blue sign right here that says hearing impaired, if that's maybe around the height of a doorbell, it's going to capture a beautiful face shot of me. And if you have something that has even remotely good resolution in the camera, you're going to have a fantastic, kind of a money shot of the person who tried to break into your home or actually did break into your home or stole a package off of your doorstep. They're fantastic. And they send real-time alerts to your phone. Many of them, I wouldn't say all again, but many of them you can even talk two-way with a person. They ring the doorbell or you get an alert on your phone that someone's there and you can actually push a button on your phone and have a conversation with them while you're 50 miles away, 100 miles away. They're pretty cheap, comparatively so. They are fairly easy to set up. If you have any technical skills of any sort at all with logging into Wi-Fi or anything like that, they're pretty easy to set up and they're fantastic tools. Interior cameras, I talked about those a minute ago as well. Many alarm companies now that are incorporating video cameras with their alarm systems even include interior cameras as an option that you can purchase. Ring has some, SimpliSafe has some, there are many others as well. But in general, they're fairly discreet. Some of them are kind of an eyesore, I'll be honest. Let's call it what it is. But many are fairly discreet. They can be put in a position where you're just monitoring just your front door from the inside or just the foyer area. It doesn't have to be in your living room, which capturing the whole family when they're playing a board game or watching a movie. Again, many of them have two-way audio. They can send alerts to your phone. Some of them, depending on the brand, can turn on or off if your alarm is on or off. In other words, if you arm your alarm when you're going out to the grocery store, sometimes the camera will automatically turn on or automatically start sensing motion. For people who have privacy concerns, such as myself and probably most anybody here, that's kind of a big thing because I don't want a camera recording in my living room all day long. I just don't. They don't need to see how much coffee I drink. And so it's a lot, I will admit. But there are a lot of pros and cons to these. And so it's another tool. Fairly inexpensive. You can buy them pretty cheap online. Basic knockoff brands or generic brands for $25, $30. Name brands from some of these companies maybe up to $100. But again, a great tool, and especially when used in conjunction with alarms. All right, so I wanted to show you some pictures of, if you haven't seen already, you probably have, and again, I'm not promoting Ring, I'm not promoting SimpliSafe, they're just two big names that I am very familiar with and that I appreciate a lot of what I see on there. This is an idea of the viewing angle that you can get from a doorbell camera. If this gentleman on the left there is trying to come up and steal a package on your doorstep, you have a fantastic shot of his face. If he's coming there to break into your home, you have a fantastic shot of his face. If it's your friend coming over to join you for the card game at night, well, now you know he's home, or whatever the case may be. But it's a beautiful angle instead of something that's way up in the top corner of a room. It's going to capture the glare off of a scalp like mine. It's a great tool. I love the way that they're set up. They work really well. And I'm seeing a lot of doorbell cameras on people's homes here in Edmonds, and I love seeing that. When a case comes across my desk, and if I didn't mention already, I investigate primarily burglaries. Detective Gavantes and I both do. Property crime in general, but burglaries is kind of the main thing. Whenever we see that there's video, whether it be from a doorbell or something else, instantly I know, okay, this is going to be a good case. I have a lot of leads I can run with this, and I stand much, much better odds of being able to get somebody identified and arrested. Some other things, these should, I hope, be obvious to most of us. In terms of helping prevent burglaries, be a good neighbor. And know your neighbors. Get to know them by name. And that's a big thing. Thank you very much for that. It's a huge thing. And being able to know when somebody's going on vacation. Me having the freedom to go over to my next door neighbor and say, I'm going out of town for a couple days. Could you watch my yard for me? Could you make sure I don't have any newspapers or my garbage cans? A lady came up to me a few minutes before we started here and mentioned that. And in the flyer that you got, I don't know that it actually says asking your neighbor to bring in your garbage cans for you. But that's a huge thing, because let's be honest, if burglar is coming down your street looking for a home to burglarize, and they're looking for a home that they think is probably unoccupied, and they see a nice clean street, maybe a couple cars parked here and there, and then a house over here with 3 newspapers and the garbage cans out front, your odds are probably pretty good that nobody's home, and that'd be a great neighbor, great home to burglarize. And so be a good neighbor. Get to know them. Get to know them well. Make sure that they feel comfortable with you. Make sure there's trust and relationship built up there. It's kind of something that's failing from popularity and getting to know our neighbors. We tend to be very inclusive and just stick to ourselves and mind our own business and not bother with anybody else. But when we have that community type environment, that does an enormous amount of good for helping prevent burglaries, because you recognize, well, my next door neighbor across the street is out of town and I saw someone go up to their front door. I know no one's supposed to be in their house, and the guy walked around the backyard. I should probably do something. But if you don't know your neighbor, and you saw someone go up to the front door and then walk around the backyard, you may be able to kind of sort of justify this and write it off and somehow convince yourself it's not worth calling in. Bring garbage cans in. Bring newspapers in. Ask them to do the same for you when you go out of town. My wife and I have recently had to do that. And the most important thing there at the bottom, if you see something that stands out that you know is odd and is not normal, call 911. So many times, for any one of us in uniform here that have ever responded to a burglary call or a suspicious person call, one of the first things I hear from people is, I'm so sorry to have to call you. I know you're busy, but, and I always stop them, no. This is my job. This is what I do. If it's a suspicious person that you don't know what's wrong, but something's making the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and I just don't know about that. I've never seen this person before, and the way that they're parked or the way that they walked up to this home, it just looks odd. If something looks odd, call 911. You may not be able to articulate, it looks weird because of X, Y, and Z, but it just looks strange. You're probably right. And if you're wrong, then you're wrong, and if the person's feelings are hurt, we can deal with that. But if you're right, now you're the hero, and everybody thanks you, including me. So please call 911. It's our job. We love to respond to that. This right here, I want to make sure I don't hurt anybody's feelings if you happen to work for an alarm company. I'm not dissing on or bashing alarm systems. They're a fantastic tool, but there are some myths regarding them and misconceptions that I really want to make sure that you're alert to and aware of. The main one being that they will prevent an intruder from getting into your home. When I last purchased a home a number of years back, about a week later after I got the keys, I heard a knock on my front door, and there was a friendly salesman from ABC Company. That's not the name of the company. Trying to sell me an alarm system. It's a great company, reputable. They have a fantastic product. It's a little bit more expensive than I was wanting to pay for an alarm system, and I already knew what I was going to do in the future. But the presentation wasn't overtly saying this is the one-stop shop to preventing anybody from ever getting into your home, but the presentation was giving the innuendo that if you buy this, you can rest safe and secured for the rest of your life, essentially. The reality is they only help minimize the amount of time somebody's in your home. The alarm by itself. And that's really key to make sure we understand. It doesn't prevent somebody from getting into your home. It helps minimize the amount of time that they're in your home. Alarms help catch the intruder is another myth. We're going to get into this in a little bit here, and I'm going to kind of walk through a timeline of what an alarm dispatch for us looks like. By the time we get the alarm call, we, for all intents and purposes, kind of know we're already a little bit too late. We really are. And I'm going to walk through this again. If you're not really believing that for what it is, I'm I hope I'm able to convince you of this. We can understand how alarms are a great tool, not necessarily all by themselves. When the alarm is sounded and we get dispatched as a police, we already know we're almost and probably a little bit too late already. Alarms are 100% reliable is another myth. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was on graveyard patrol and I got an alarm call. Turned out it was a false alarm, which was great. But when I finally found that out and walked around the home, found out there was no forced entry or anything like that, I was able to find out from our dispatch company, our dispatch service rather, that the alarm wasn't actually called in to 911 for a 45-minute gap of time. Alarms are 100% reliable. Not exactly. Sensors can fail. Batteries can die. The alarm dispatch company might have had their wires crossed. We might have not been able to get there in time. So this is the part that hopefully I'm not going to, again, hurt anybody's feelings, but I really want you to understand what the alarm dispatch looks like for us. Let's say somebody's just broken in your front door. They've kicked in your front door, they broke the back window, they're in your home, so the alarm sensor is triggered. Usually there's about a 30 second to 1 minute delay before the alarm siren sounds. You have 30 seconds to a minute to punch in your code to turn off the alarm. By that point, if the suspect's in your home, they're not looking to turn off your alarm. They're looking to get in and get out as fast as they can. They're looking to find whatever they can and move on. So at that point, they're already into your home and getting deeper and deeper into your home. About 1 to 2 minutes after that, the attempts are made by the alarm company to call you. They're trying to get hold of what's called the key holder or the subscriber. They're trying to call your phone, and let's say, best case, they finally get a hold of you after several rings, or maybe they don't get a hold of the first phone number, so they call the secondary phone number. Meanwhile, time is continuing to tick by and tick by. At that point, the guy is already, and I say guy, I've arrested girls for burglary as well, but predominantly guys, so I'll just say that. The guy is already upstairs going through your drawers, your dresser, and you may at this point finally be aware that something's actually happened in your home. By the time you find out somebody's in your home or your alarm's been going off, somebody's already upstairs in your master bedroom. 3 minutes in, the alarm company calls 911. When the call comes into dispatch, it goes to a call taker. The call taker is entering a bunch of information into the computer. That dispatcher, or the call taker, sends the information to the dispatcher for Edmonds. And all these things take time. There's information that has to be heard over the phone, processed, typed in, sent. The dispatcher may already be on the radio with another agency. We share the air with Mountlake Terrace, Briar, Mukilteo, so the dispatcher may be on a call with Mukilteo or Mountlake Terrace at the time, so they might not be able to get this dispatched right like that. Possible. But by that point, they've already finished ransacking the kids' rooms, and they're already kind of working their way out. 4 to 5 minutes into it, Detective Gavantes, somebody in Edmonds gets the dispatch over the radio of an alarm call at your home. And that's all it is, just an alarm call. It's not, it doesn't come out to us as a burglary in progress with a neighbor calling saying, I saw someone smash the front window. It's just an alarm, which is not a high priority that warrants us driving with lights and sirens. We're going to drive there and get there as fast as we can, but while abiding by the law or having as few of delays as possible. At that point, they're already out and they're already starting to walk away or drive away, and there's probably going to be a getaway car in the area. 8 to 15 minutes in, this is kind of a best case type scenario to some degree, depending on the time of the day and the day of the week. We finally arrive, we confirm that the front door is kicked in or the kitchen window smashed. Think of the time there. If the suspect's on foot and they're walking, they're just on foot, they didn't ride a bike or didn't get dropped off. If they're on foot, they could be a long distance away if they're walking casually. If they're running and motivated to get away, they can be even further away. If they're driving, if it happened in Edmonds, they could already be down in North Seattle. They could already be North Everett. They could be out in Woodinville at this point almost. When you think about how motivated somebody might be to get away in that timeline. This is all kind of a best case scenario. It really is. I mean, it's not a doomsday picture of, well, that doesn't really happen that often. It's actually kind of a fairly common timeline of a response to an alarm. And that's all assuming that nothing's bad's happening. We don't have snow. We don't have school zones. We're not driving through, our only option isn't driving through that big construction zone. We might have officers way up on the north end of town on domestic with a weapon or something. All of us, potentially. And maybe the alarm call came out down at the south end of town near Firdale. Now we have to traverse several miles. So this is kind of a best case scenario. If there are long distances like that, that delay could be even longer. Some common mistakes: we fail to use it, get complacent, fail to have an audible internal alarm, because I mentioned that the alarm system really only minimizes the amount of time that somebody's inside your home. Last summer I arrested a guy for a burglary of a residence kind of the north end of town. The alarm did sound during the burglary and was actually extremely loud. I was in the area when the call came out, and so when I recognized there was a burglary, and as a detective I drove up and started looking for a video at certain homes. And even from maybe not a half mile, that's probably a stretch, maybe 3-4 blocks, 5-6 blocks away, I could still hear the alarm audibly, which meant that inside the home it's that much louder. The guy still broke into the home with the alarm. But if there's no internal audible alarm, it's going to there's really no incentive for the person to get in or out if they don't recognize an alarm's been tripped. If you have an internal alarm that's loud, it really makes them want to get out as fast as they can. When I arrested this guy, and this is what I was going to get at, when I arrested the guy and interviewed him, he confessed to what happened, and I asked him the story of what led to this, and why did you choose this house, and why this, why that. He admitted that yes, the alarm went off, and the reason he got out so fast was because it hurt his ears so bad. And part of that was mixed with the fact that he was also high on drugs and X, Y, and Z, but having an internal alarm made all the difference in terms of there being minimal property loss. If you fail to replace the sensors in the doors and the windows, that's just a weak point that will catch up with you at some point. So when you replace your smoke alarm sensors, replace the sensors in your doors and windows as well, unless they're hardwired in. Test it regularly, make sure you know that it works, give yourself some peace of mind. Make sure that it's communicating with the dispatch agency. And this is what I mentioned before with failing to set up the monitoring service properly in terms of the timeliness of notification. When I get a call that almost an hour ago there was an alarm, well, an hour ago the person could be up halfway to Bellingham by now. So make sure it's timely, make sure it's quick. Give yourself some time if you set the alarm off to turn it off with your keypad, but please don't have a 45-minute delay. That was terrible. So what should we do as it relates to alarms? They're not worthless, not in any way, shape, or form. When coupled with video, they're incredible, incredible tools. Many companies, like I said, are already doing this, where they integrate them both together and they speak to each other. The alarm, or the camera senses motion and it can trigger the alarm, or the alarm sounds, or the sensor is triggered and the camera automatically turns on, or something along those lines. Making sure that you understand how to use the tool correctly is really key. When we want to close a burglary case out, we need eyewitnesses, ideally. They're fantastic. Having some sort of physical evidence with DNA or serial numbers we can trace, or latent fingerprints. Video takes the place of this in many regards. It really is kind of that eyewitness for us, because with those doorbell cameras like I showed you, or some other examples you'll see here in a few minutes, it really is an incredible tool when you capture John Smith's face. And if your name's John Smith, I apologize, but if you capture John Smith's face and it's there in Technicolor detail, what incredible evidence. And there have been so many cases where I've been able to identify someone, interview them, arrest them, take them to jail, and I show them all these pictures and I can get a confession out of them, because how can you not deny that? How can you deny that's your face? It's you. And they know that. They're not stupid. I won't go that far, but they know that. And so it's kind of hard to deny if that's your face. If I see a picture of my face, yes, that's me. I'm not going to be committing burglaries, but that's a different story. So common myths with video systems is that they're expensive. They're really not. Years ago, I bought a system for my home. Not promoting Costco, but I bought a system at Costco. It was $200, came with 4 cameras, came with a hard drive with a lot of storage. They had HD quality video cameras, and they were fantastic. Relatively easy to install. They're wired, so that may present some challenges for you, but a little bit of creativity, you can figure it out and work around it. You can get them for thousands of dollars, you can get them for a few $100s. They're, in terms of the long-term what you might save through a theft or a burglary, it's money well spent. Another is that they require professional installation. They really don't. Video systems are pretty easy to install. Some of them are wireless now. Recently I was in Costco and I saw a system from Arlo, which is a company that's growing in popularity, and they're all wireless. You plug in the unit, you make sure it communicates with your wireless internet system, you stick a camera on your wall and push some buttons and pair them together, and again, it's very easy to do. It's not, you don't need a degree in electrical science or anything like that to do it. And suddenly you have a wireless camera mounted on your wall which captures video in HD quality. You didn't have to run any wires. They're not cheap, but they work fantastic. Installation is very easy. This is a question that oftentimes is fueled by television shows of, well, they're just going to steal the camera. I really don't watch police shows often at all. I have a hard time doing that because I'm just always saying, they're not, that would never happen, that's wrong, okay, that's ridiculous. One I was watching was Blue Bloods, and they captured all the video evidence. They brought in a big, huge banker's box full of cameras. We have the evidence. Well, those are cameras. The evidence is on the DVR. You probably forgot the DVR. That's me in my living room. If you steal the camera, you steal the camera. It's not that big a deal. They're not crazy, terribly expensive. You can get a replacement camera like I had to do one time when I wanted to get an additional camera. They're about $50. Some might be more, some might be less. In fact, if you have a Ring doorbell and your camera is stolen, they actually replace it for free. You have to get a police report and things like that as well. But if they steal the camera, they steal the camera. Meanwhile, on your DVR or up in the cloud or wherever your video is stored, there's going to be video of them reaching for the camera, and you're going to get the money shot of them. You're probably going to be able to get them identified. So some recommendations from us. Couple video with an alarm system. Even have a redundant system, so you have your separate alarm system and then have a separate video system, so the video system is always running. So that if you forget to turn on your alarm, your video is still going. That's how I have it in my own home. Make sure it records 24/7. Purchase the best that you can afford. Going and getting the cheapest camera, the cheapest system you can afford is probably going to get you some cheap video. And you'll see some examples of that. And in fact, it's been kind of ironic that I oftentimes, from very big, huge corporations, I see horrible video. From mom and pop restaurant, I see fantastic video. Money doesn't always equal quality, but make sure you get the best system that you can afford, the best quality with video resolution. Some common mistakes is that it's located too high, and I talked about the camera in the corner of the room, way up in the corner of the ceiling, and it's going to capture the top of my head. And one of my coworkers said, unless Bill Gates comes up with scalp recognition technology, you're never going to get the guy identified. And you'll see an example here in a few minutes of a guy wearing a baseball cap. Well, I got a picture of a guy wearing a baseball cap. That's fantastic. I'm never going to get him identified. Low, poor quality resolution. I already kind of talked about that a little bit. Even when it comes to a car in the driveway, if you can read the license plate on the car as the car is even in motion, that's probably very adequate for a camera. If you can even go better than that, perfect, perfect. If everything's blurry and fuzzy and all you can do is barely make out the make and model of a car, you might want to upgrade and get something a little bit fancier. It's money well spent. If you're trying to focus on way down across the hallway, don't set the camera way over here. Make it closer. In other words, if I want to capture somebody at my front door, I don't want to set the camera way down to the far end of the front porch. I want to put it near the door. Some people buy a camera that they can only pull up on their phone and monitor right now, but if they want to capture what happened 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, they can't do that. Make sure it's something you can have storage of that motion event that happened. So I want to show you some examples because I'm a very visual person. Most of you, or many of you, maybe as well. If you show me something, it makes a lot of sense to me. So an example of some low quality, and this is actual cases that either I or others have had. I have no idea who that is, and I'll probably never ever know who that is. Never. It's a person. I can roughly guesstimate the height. And the camera height isn't terrible, but I can guesstimate the person might be, based on some other video I've seen, the person might be close to 5'10" to 6 foot, as is almost everybody in this room, so you might be the suspect. Can't even tell race, can't tell gender. Here's a picture of a camera that is set way too high, pointed almost downward. It's a guy that's probably middle-aged wearing a baseball cap, and that's not going to do me any good in terms of identifying anybody. So having a low-quality camera, especially a low-quality camera at a bad angle, is almost as good as not having anything at all. Sergeant Shane Hawley's master of technical skills with the computer pressing play will come to handy for this next video here. So I'll let him do that. But this is an example from some poor quality video from a burglary that happened last summer. And actually the picture was shown just a few seconds ago on the previous slide. You can kind of guesstimate height. You can guesstimate weight. You really can't even necessarily tell what color the clothes are. And at this point, the video stopped, but at this point the person opens an unsecured window. And this is the middle of the summertime, and he crawled through and stole a bunch of stuff. I thought I knew what color the clothes were, or could guess what color the clothes were based off of this video. Based off of a neighbor's video, I found out I was actually way off. They were very different colors, and his video wasn't necessarily higher quality, but it didn't have the horrible, terrible, poor lighting. So being aware of good camera placement, which this isn't terrible, it's actually okay, it's actually pretty good. But having a low quality camera, much less one that doesn't pick up low light situations well, doesn't do you any favors. Another example of low quality pictures. I mentioned corporations oftentimes have very, very poor quality pictures. This is from one kind of in North Snohomish County. I can tell race, maybe guesstimate age, but that's about as good as it gets. That's grainy. You can tell maybe the colors of the clothes. Another example of a burglary. That's about as good as it gets. That's literally the best picture I got out of the video. Good luck. Long story short, I actually got the guy arrested because he was arrested in a different case and admitted to this burglary, but based off this all by itself, not a chance in the world. It's terrible, terrible quality. Another large parking garage somewhere in the area here nearby, where the angle isn't bad, the quality isn't great at all. And in a situation such as this, I'll probably never be able to get the person identified. High quality video makes a huge difference. And Sergeant Hawley's going to press play on this video here. And this gives you an example of, again, if you're a business owner, think of the type of, the location of the video is good. The ability to be able to pan the video back and forth is great. But what are you getting? You're not getting anything that's worth identifying anybody. The only chance of being able to get this person identified is if the crime occurred and you literally captured him right outside the store, maybe a block or two away. And then at that point the clerk could come and identify and say, yeah, that was the guy that was stealing something. But barring that, I have no idea who it is. And in this case, we never did capture him, and so all I have is video. Well, we're never going to be able to get the person identified because the quality is so poor. Another example here with the video. The question was, am I talking about the resolution of videos? And yes, exactly. This is another example here. In a commercial arrangement, it's set up high to try and capture a whole parking lot, but despite the fact that it's at night, look at how blurry this is. You can tell the height, you can tell maybe the build of a person, but unless that person is captured literally blocks away at the time of the crime, or in minutes after the crime, you're really not going to have much of a chance of being able to identify him based this alone. Yeah, and the gentleman saying you can't ever tell if it's a female or a male. And I know myself after the fact that the person who was ultimately arrested based off of physical evidence with DNA or fingerprints was a male. But to be honest, I'm not even sure what kind of car that is. And we need to be able to tell bare minimum what a large car is. If we can't tell what kind of car it is, we're not going to be able to tell many details about the person himself. So some examples of some average quality photos. And this is a lot of what I see. This is fairly representative. This is from a mini mart in the area. A female was using stolen credit cards from a vehicle prowl. Not a bad picture. Easy to identify, or useful to identifying somebody. This is pretty common to what I see. but it can even be better for not a whole lot of money. It's another example of a great shot. This is from a Walmart. The camera height is perfect. You can get a facial shot of somebody. The camera quality is average. It's okay. You can have the good likelihood of getting somebody identified. This is fairly representative of a lot of what we see. The backstory behind this really quick. This is a video that Sergeant Hawley's going to play in just a moment. This is from a friend of mine. He let me use video from his own home. $200 system, not even the high, I'm not trying to compare what I have versus what he had, but not even the same caliber of system as the $200 system that I bought for my old home. Captures video pretty well, but even with pretty average quality, he was able to identify who this person who came up to his door was. And I mentioned earlier, when somebody comes up to your door and knocks on it, and if somebody answers, they say, yeah, I was looking for my dog, or I was trying to find the guy who was selling that Honda on Craigslist. This guy said, yeah, I'm trying to find my dog. And why you're trying to find your dog in my living room, I don't know. But he came up and trying to find his dog, and was scared away when somebody answered the door, was caught blocks down the road after burglarizing someone else's home. So, Sergeant Hawley, go ahead and press play. This is just an example of an affordable $200 system. It was $200 3 years ago, so probably even less now. Good camera height, good angle, the lighting isn't bad. It's adequate for being able to identify somebody, and that's just a small clip of that. Kind of some examples of some real high quality. This gentleman right here, I use the term kind of loosely. When I got this case across my desk and saw the quality of the video, it was almost like watching a television show. The quality of it, almost uninterrupted, with high frames per second as the guy walks down the driveway. This was the same guy I mentioned several slides back with a grainy picture of a guy in a white t-shirt. Exact same guy. I never would have guessed had I not known otherwise. But great quality video. And there are numerous other still pictures from the video just like that shows incredible detail and definition. Many commercial establishments now are finally recognizing that we need to put some money into quality video systems. So if you have a local business, invest in a high quality video system so you can have pictures like that of somebody stealing or causing damage to your property. Last summer I mentioned how when I really started working on this and had to work in spurts in between large-scale investigations going on here, we had a large spree of commercial burglaries. I mentioned how a lot of big corporate establishments can have very low-quality video, and some mom-and-pop restaurants, small businesses, oftentimes have the best video, and this is a great example of that. Sergeant Hawley? So this shows the car coming in. This is nighttime, which by definition would usually have lower quality video, but you're going to be able to see the car come in. You're able to make out the make and model of it. I know it's a Toyota Camry at this point. And you'll see some glitchiness here and there a little bit, but you're able to get some good shots of the person as he comes up to the window of the business and starts to break the glass. That'll happen here in just a second. You're able to get great quality of shoes, great quality of his face, of his profile, his height. This is from inside. So he's already broken the window. Like I said, they're in there for about a minute or less. He's in and out. He doesn't waste any time. He's actually quite efficient. If you could apply that hard work ethic to other things, he could do something. But with that video, I was able to pause that because of the high quality of the video. I was able to pause that and get still pictures of a suspect and identify tattoos on arms. And then I did use those tattoos to identify who it was. And this was part of a spree of this guy who committed somewhere between 50 and 60, might even been in excess of 60 burglaries exactly like this in commercial establishments all throughout Snohomish County. And in Edmonds, we had like a third of those. We did catch him. Unfortunately, only three of the 20 businesses had video. And thanks to this business here, this is very key in us being able to get him caught and arrested and held on a bunch of these felony charges. So if you have a small business, invest in it. If you have a residence, which we all live somewhere, invest in it. The system doesn't have to be locked into your home so that if you move, it stays. It can be like that. If you're looking to sell your home in the future, it's a great little add-on to be able to put in your listing that you have home surveillance, or you can bring it with you if that's an option too, depending on how you have it set up. I mentioned IP cameras or interior cameras, and many systems such as Ring and SimpliSafe and Nest, I don't believe has an alarm system, but they have a lot of interior cameras. And this is an example of one of those Nest videos. So Sergeant Hawley, it doesn't have audio in this, only because we don't have audio hooked up, I don't believe, but this shows the suspect letting in his two buddies. This happened to be an occupied burglary, actually, so somebody was inside, and unbeknownst to the suspects, she probably just did not hear them knocking on the front door as they were there with their ruse of looking for their dog or trying to get a newspaper subscription or selling Girl Scout cookies or something. But meanwhile, they're going all throughout the home, and you see, for the sake of this video, this wasn't an Edmonds case, but their faces are blurred out, but the quality is fantastic. The cameras aren't cheap, or aren't expensive, and I'll answer your question in just one second here, but the cameras aren't terribly expensive. The quality of them is fantastic, and the usefulness of them in apprehending people is fantastic. And these three suspects were ultimately arrested after they'd fled the home. And you'll see that here in just a moment. And the homeowner actually, in the interest of time, I may actually skip past that, but the homeowner actually comes down the hall and scares them out. This is an example of a Ring video system. It's a local business. The quality is fantastic. You can make out license plates. You can make out facial detail if anybody walked by. You can make out a license plate of a car if it turned around in the parking lot. They're not terribly expensive. They're incredibly useful. They're an amazing deterrent. They really help solve crimes. Yes, sir, it is. It's Five Corners. The question was, is it in front of dojos? And it's right in the Five Corners area, yes. So some popular brands. Again, I'm not recommending one brand over another. These are just brands that are very popular nowadays. And if you're not aware of who some of them are, this might give you a little bit of a starting ground for that. And, some of these are alarm companies. Some of them are video companies. Some of them, such as Xfinity, such as Ring, SimpliSafe, offer a lot of these things all together. So wrapping up here, a few things if your home does get burglarized. Again, I can't promise you your home will never get broken into, but we want to minimize that risk as much as possible. You can try and fortify it as much as you can. You can put a moat around it, have alligators the whole 9 yards. If somebody wants to get in, they'll get in. And there's unfortunately not a lot we can do about that. But if your home does get burglarized, please don't touch anything. Years ago, I went to a burglary that happened, and I talked to the homeowners after they discovered their home was burglarized. I says, okay, here's what I need you to do. I'm going to give you these statement forms. I need you to start writing out what you know happened. I need you to start itemizing what you know is missing. While you're doing that, I'm going to take some pictures and try and get fingerprints. Please don't touch anything. So I left them with my witness statements. I went out to my car and got my camera and my fingerprint kit, and I came back inside and found them in the master bedroom, touching everything that I was going to fingerprint, and so I wasn't able to print anything. Please don't touch anything. Please, please, please. We talked about getting pictures of serial numbers and pictures of jewelry. Make sure you get good, solid descriptions to us. Just saying that your TV was stolen doesn't do me much good, but if you can say my Samsung TV with serial number blah, blah, blah was stolen, well, now I could check pawn records. I can enter it as stolen, so if it's found in a hotel room or, like I said, the trunk of a stolen car or something like that, we can hopefully get it returned to you. If you have video surveillance, please get it to us as soon as you can. If you know that your neighbor's home was broken into, please be proactive about getting that video surveillance to us. Neighbors have been very crucial in helping identify suspects. We can't guarantee your home's never going to get broken into, but our goal is to help minimize your risk and maximize the tools that you have so that they can be as useful as possible. If we do those things, we can really see a big uptick in arrests. We're never going to bring that to 100%. You know, the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise is not a documentary. I've told people many times. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But we can bring that number way higher than 25% because I think that's low. And it's low because there's only so much that we're able to do with evidence that we have many times. But video, not touching anything. Letting us get forensic evidence with DNA swabbing and latent fingerprints is huge. So that's the presentation for tonight. We have some time for question and answers. I don't know at the beginning if I mentioned, this actually went a bit longer than I thought it might, but we've got until about 7:30, so about 15, 20 minutes or so for some questions and answers. And Detective Gavantes is going to join me on that. Man with the red shirts.
What should you do if you're in the house and you know somebody's breaking in?
What should you do if you're in the house and you know somebody's breaking in was a question. Do you want to take a stab at that? Yeah.
If you're in the home, most people have their cell phones with them. Call 911 right away. And honestly, if you're in your home, you might want to stay quiet in a room. Call 911, let them know where you are, and try not to get out into the hallways or into the room or try to make contact. Because you never know what they may have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specific to the Five Corners burglaries that were happening, they were happening at like 6:45 at night, which is contrary to what you were saying about time. It's when a lot of people are actually at home. And they were pretty intrusive. And so just, what about that? And then how is the investigation going? Because there were a lot of homes hit up there.
Sure.
As you know.
So the question was about burglaries that have been happening near the Chase Lake neighborhood. The little bit of a unique MO with those, and that it's been happening more around the dinner time area. I can't get into or discuss specifics of the investigation right now because there's a lot of them. They're still open and ongoing. As it relates to somebody getting into a home around that time, that's an incredibly concerning thing for us because nobody wants to break into a home that they know or suspect is occupied. In terms of addressing why somebody's doing that, there's a chance, there's a possibility, I wouldn't say a high likelihood, but there's at least a chance that somebody may have the ability to case out whether a home is empty or not. We're not sure at this point. It's not common. That's usually a TV and movie thing we see with people casing out and being aware and sitting around the corner. It's usually a crime of opportunity. So as it relates to somebody getting into a home at a specific time, that's a very uncommon thing, which actually makes this rash of burglaries fairly concerning in that regard, because nobody wants to break into a home that they know is occupied or believe might be occupied. I can't talk about what's going on in investigations right now, unfortunately, though. So, does that answer your question?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. Just one second. There was a gentleman in the back here. Yes.
Burglaries, are they typically armed with something other than something they commit, battery with, like a firearm or something, and burglaries occur?
For the most part, our burglars are usually unarmed. If they're armed, they usually have some kind of tool, not an actual firearm or a knife or anything like that. It's usually just a tool that they use to get into the home.
Okay, and then I was just wondering, when you were showing some of the videos and you shared a little course of action relative to if someone does knock on your door, if I have the ring, so when they ring the doorbell or they're nearby, I get a notification. What is the right course of action if we essentially assume that they're up to no good, whether we're in the house or not? Suspicious dude, tweaking out, whatever, and he rings our doorbell, whether we're home or not. Is the recommendation we just call the police, or do we say go away, or do we answer the door? Not the door, but I answer the ring doorbell. But I guess what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's fine. I'd say to call 911 because you weren't expecting any guests. They're not the mailman, not UPS or anything like that. So if you know in your gut something's off, call 911, give a good description of what they're wearing, their race, their age, and let them know, hey, I wasn't expecting anyone. This person is at my door. They're likely going to be walking off, but then we can actually check the area. Patrol officers will drive around the area, try to find them, make contact with them. Even they may have not done a crime, but at least to be able to identify them.
Thank you.
And gentlemen, sir.
Is there a possibility or a thought that the person or persons that are breaking into these homes actually lives in the neighborhood or is local? And possibly watching the house they intend to break in to from another house across the street or down the road. Just
Yeah. And the question was if a suspect, I'm assuming you're probably talking about the Chase Lake burglaries that have been happening or something. The question if in the Chase Lake burglaries, if a suspect lives nearby. Again, I can't address specifics of the investigations, but because they are still open and ongoing. But in general, as it relates to burglaries all over the place, burglaries, I've seen people from their own neighborhoods burglarize their own neighborhoods. I've seen people from South Seattle come all the way up here. Several years ago, we were getting hit with probably a good 2 to 3 burglaries a day for on and off for months and months. And the burglary detectives, fortunately I was on patrol at the time, but the burglary detectives were just, they could never get ahead because there were so many. But it was groups from South Seattle, it was SeaTac area, Kent, coming up here just because there wouldn't be any facial recognition up here. So we see that sometimes. So sometimes it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes you'll see people from their own neighborhood burglarizing. Sometimes it's someone from South Edmonds going to North Edmonds or vice versa, or from Linwood and Mount Lake Terrace to Edmonds. It could be any number of things. So there's really no set box you can place it in. As it relates to current investigations that are ongoing, I really can't say. But you know, we're looking at all possibilities is really what it comes down to whenever we have a burglary investigation of any sort. Questions? Ma'am.
Do you have any books or conversations? So I have little boys, I have a 5-year-old. With the police presence in our neighborhood, he's asking questions. And then when we drove by my dad's house, his home was broken into, the police were there. So are there any books that I can have conversations with my son and our neighbor kids with, or conversations as to what's, I mean, he knows what their house is broken into. But he's a little more anxious. So I'm wondering if there's anything, even a Berenstein's Bears book.
Yeah, the question being if for kids, are there any books that are available? I'm not aware of any myself or resources like that, but probably one of the best things I would recommend if there's a child who's aware that there have been burglaries that have been happening, or if the child's the victim or grandma and grandpa are the victim. You know, as the police I love it when kids come up and ask me questions or ask for a sticker. I love that. I truly do. And so maybe having that face-to-face with a police officer might be helpful for them to help ease some fears. And that may help, but I'm not aware of any books specifically. The library would probably be a good resource for something like that. Maybe even school, potentially. But ma'am in the flannel jacket.
In my particular case, when I have visitors that are valid, they ring the doorbell. The ones that are not, they knock. So does ring work just as if they don't ring the doorbell? Is it motion activated?
Yeah, the question being for a video doorbell, do they work even if somebody doesn't ring the doorbell? And then they do. They are motion activated. They also work if somebody rings the doorbell. And so if they just sense motion going by, they can send an alert to your phone. And that is a real-time alert, and it's not just for Ring, but it can also be for Nest or any, many others as well. There are a lot of different brands, but they're all motion activated too. So it doesn't have to be just pushing the button. And then, sir in the green shirt.
Some of those are from the Esperance area, because you've heard there's been a rash of break-ins up there in the 200th and 84th area. That's kind of here to get your response on that, because sometimes we've heard they work in sections. And any alerts we should be aware of, that you know.
Any alerts for the neighborhood? Is that what your question is?
Yes. And sometimes I've heard in the past, sheriffs have come in years past, they said, well, they're working this street, they're working these blocks. They're going down and getting all your cars, which they do. Try to get, you know that. Try to get in our cars and get it over. So anyway, that's why I'm kind of here to hear if there's information you have for that Esperance area.
The question being if I have any information for the Esperance area specifically, that there's a pocket, for those of you who may not be aware, there's a pocket inside of Edmonds, kind of near Westgate, between Westgate and the highway roughly, 220th south. I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but roughly a 1 square mile area that's unincorporated Edmonds, so it's underneath the sheriff's office. So some of you may be from there. So Edmonds Police doesn't service that area, even though it has an Edmonds address. So the question being for burglaries that have happened there, if there's any information we have. I don't have any information about those. I've kind of kept abreast of some of the reports that I've seen come through just to see if there's crossover, because there's a good likelihood they're related to Edmonds cases as well. All they have to do is walk across the street in some cases and they're in Edmonds again. So I don't have any tips or information on that, unfortunately. There's been a big rash in a certain area, but I can't predict when somebody may or may not strike next. There's a gentleman back here. Yes.
Do we have any description of this chase like burglar?
The question is if there's a description of the burglar, and there is not. We've had a lot of suspicious people reports, which is good, and I love those, and I actually have a running list in Excel of those and documenting who, when, what time, things of that nature. But we don't know who the suspect is yet, which is one of the reasons why something like this is very timely as it relates to video. If you have a video system, please go back and look at it and you happen to live in that area, because if there's somebody that you recognize that, or somebody that you see in the video that you know is not from there, that's doing something suspicious, going up to your neighbor's home or your home, that's something we might be interested in seeing, possibly. Get some hands over here. Brown jacket.
Specifically, you mentioned they've stolen jewelry and such. Have there been any firearms stolen?
In general, the question is if there are firearms stolen as well. For the most recent rash of burglaries, I'm aware of one firearm that was stolen. In general, for burglaries, that's something that they tend to look at.
No, this is specific now. Since the first of the year, have there been firearms stolen from these homes?
There was one firearm theft I'm aware of from a home so far since the first of the year. And there might be more, but I'm aware of at least one. So, ma'am in the back.
Do you have any statistics on burglaries occurring in condominiums in Edmonds?
Statistics with burglaries in condominiums versus homes. I don't have a breakout of one versus the other. In my experience, standalone homes tend to be burglarized far more, only because probably no shared walls, or you can go around to that side window. Condos usually have the front door or maybe the back patio. So burglaries of apartments and condos do occur, but it's less frequent. I don't have a statistic on that, though. Ma'am, the black sweatshirt, or blue sweatshirt?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, go for it.
So in some cities, they have a video opt-in system where citizens can opt in to allow the police to use and see their video, or there's a website where they can go and see incidents that happen and say, you know, I might have video at that time, and submit it in so you can kind of see the guy runs out of my house, starts running down the street, you pick him up on 4 or 5 other cameras. Is there any thought to having Edmonds have a program like that?
And the question if there's like an opt-in service where law enforcement could view people's video systems?
I could go to a website and say there was a break-in at 5050 Maple Avenue.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm 2 houses away, and I say, you know what, I got perfect video of them jumping in a car.
I'm not aware of a service where you're able to do that right now, and I could be wrong. I'm not sure if something like that exists or not, but that something along those lines might be useful at some point. But if in lieu of having that right now, calling us, it could be a non-emergency line, or even just calling 911 and saying it's not an emergency, but I just wanted to share some video.
Right,
that could be useful to us.
Aware that there was a crime, and so what I'm saying is, you know, I know New Orleans does this, where when they have a crime, they see what houses on that block are part of this program, and then they go to them and say, can I view your video for the hours of Wednesday to Friday, you know, 3 to 5 or whatever. And it would seem that, you know, 25% capture rate of these types of crimes would go way up just based on having many more pieces of evidence to view.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a service like that here right now. Something like that would certainly be worth looking into and checking into, though, for sure, because that could be a very useful tool for us. We've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more. Ma'am in the back in the green shirt.
I was wondering, for women from home by themselves alone in the evening or in the daytime, do you answer the door or don't you answer the door?
And the question being, if there's a lady alone or home alone in the daytime or whenever, should you answer the door? My recommendation would always be never open the door. You know, talk through the door, or if you have a storm door that's locked, talk through that at the bare minute, at the most. Yeah, yeah. Ma'am with the blue shirt.
Wouldn't having a large-sized dog at your home be a pretty good deterrent to have burglars go away from their house?
I know from experience, not necessarily.
Really?
The large-sized dog, are they a good deterrent?
You know, with the good ones squawk,
Yeah.
attack the door and all that.
A dog can be kind of a double-sided thing. I love dogs. I'm a dog person. My dogs bark when you come to the door. When you come in the door, they'll knock you over with a wagging tail and love you. So if the person is scared away by the barking, perfect, job well done. If the barking doesn't scare them away, the dog may actually just kind of cower in the corner, or just, like my lab retriever, just walk upstairs and show you where the jewelry is or something. So it kind of, there's really no perfect answer to that. In theory, the barking dog should be a good deterrent, but in reality, they work great. You should, you know. We got time for maybe one more question, sir.
Do you have any occasion that people would use their car key in the bedroom to turn on the horn in the garage?
The question being, if you have your car in the garage, if you hear a break-in, maybe hitting the panic button on your car key fob, something like that's great. You know, if you can draw attention to your home, that's a great idea. You know, I haven't heard of a lot of people doing that, but what better idea? If you have the wherewithal at that time, when you've heard your front door get kicked in or the window smash, and you can think clearly, logically, I got to grab the key fob and push the button. Perfect. It's one more deterrent that might scare that person out. So something like that would be a good idea. I think it's about just shy of 7:30. That's about all the time I think we have for tonight. Many of you got a flyer on the way in. We ran out, frankly, because I wasn't quite sure how many people were going to attend. I'm going to have a stack of the little burglary prevention flyers, which basically had everything some of what I'd already covered here. We'll have those in the lobby of the building, the PD, later this week. So I appreciate you all coming. Thank you all very much. And
Nice job. I was going to give you a little...